on a Tuesday evening alongside Jonathan Von Tobel. I am Tim Murray. The Eastern Conference Finals get going tonight. The Boston Celtics hosting the Indiana Pacers. The Celtics a 10-point favorite, and that total keeps on rising, Mr. Von Tobel. Up and up it goes, 222.5, even a 223 out there. A lot to get to as the show goes on. Tip-off for that game is set for a little after 8 o'clock Eastern. But just a reminder, VSiN PrimeTime, as always, brought to you by ZYN Nicotine Pouches. Head on over to ZYN.com to learn more. All right, JVT, it starts tonight. Yesterday we discussed this series at length for Game 1 as we see this total go up. An Indiana team that, as we have discussed, let's just say, is not the strongest from a defensive side of things, but coming off a performance that we saw in Game 7, shooting 67% from the field, over 50% from three. Do you agree with this market move on the over, as we have gotten, as I mentioned, as high as 223 at some spots?
Yeah, I think so. Look, you have a Boston team that's going to take over 40% of their attempts from three-point range. You got an Indiana team that has increased their rate of three-point shots, so that can obviously up the variance, up the scoring if both of these teams are going to be on. Indiana likes to play with pace, might speed Boston up. Celtics, among playoff teams, are the slowest paced team in the NBA right now. But Indiana is going to try to speed them up, and Boston is good enough and going to be more than willing to do it. They're also a good transition defensive team, Boston is, so I don't think would mind getting up and down the floor if they need to in this game and in this series. So I think given everything we know, as you mentioned, Indiana Pacers, a subpar defensive team by every measure, I think that you are pretty comfortable if you're Boston playing at the tempo and the pace that the Indiana Pacers would like to play with. So given all of that, I think it makes sense that you'd bet this thing up from 220, especially 220. Like, that seemed pretty low for an Indiana Pacers team that plays defense the way they do and the pace at which they do on offense. So I think you're there. Obviously, from a current betting standpoint, I think you're kind of tapping out. Wait for two empty possessions. Get over like a 219.5, 220.5. Right back to that pre-flop number if you get a couple of those. So if you fancy the over, but you haven't gotten involved, you're going in game hoping for a slow start. And like I say, slow start, you need to wait like 2 minutes and you'll be able to get in there.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what we see from the Celtics in this game, right? Because we've talked about it so much, where this is a team, even though they are 8-2 straight up this postseason, probably shouldn't have lost either one of those games when you think about the roster makeup for the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 2, a game in which they went into Boston and obliterated the Boston Celtics, and then Game 2 against the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler. So do we see a Celtics team, JVT, that is buttoned up? They do have certainly a nice rest advantage where the Pacers playing a Game 7, albeit one that, I don't want to say it didn't exude any energy, but they played on Sunday. They won comfortably, but they still had to play on Sunday. Well, the Celtics have been off for a handful of days, and they're at home here. So I do wonder if we see what we see from this Celtics team right out of the chute. And once again, it's been the theme of this postseason, especially at home, which, by the way, over the last, two postseasons, just 15 and 14 straight up, another double-digit spread for the Boston Celtics. But I want to circle back to what we discussed yesterday. Oh, go ahead.
Really quick, just to add to that as well, these last few years for Boston, this year, when you mentioned the struggles at home, by their standards, the struggles, 4-2 straight up, but failing to cover by 3.3 points per game. That's this season. Then you go back to last season, Boston 5-6 straight up at home, failing to cover by 4.8 points per game. So they have been a team that, as the sample size grows at home, they have not really taken care of business, have not covered, have not met market expectations when it comes to playing at TD Garden. So it's just something to monitor, I guess. As the sample size grows, it's something worth looking at there. As we talked about, if you're not winning by margin, at least the margin the market expects, then that's a little bit of a problem. And if you go back 3 seasons, again, another season in which they were 500, 6-6 at home in the postseason back in 2022, a negative 1.3 spread differential. They have not had a positive spread differential at home. The Celtics have in the last 3 postseasons.
Celtics this postseason 6-4 against the spread, 8-2 straight up. The Indiana Pacers 7-6 against the spread so far this postseason. Looking back to yesterday and our discussions, you are in on the Pacers at a series price of plus 1.5, meaning this will, or plus 2.5. 2.5.
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky.
No, I'm not going to put that on you because that would mean we could not meet in the middle, which we absolutely will. We're going to meet in the middle. We're going to land 6, and we're going to be both happy. But
why don't you just bet Boston in 6?
What's that?
I mean, I just, if you really thought that, you could have just bet Boston exact series result plus 6, or excuse me, in game 6, 4-2, 4-1, sitting right there.
Well, it was a little.
Just saying.
It was a little easier to do with with the parlay, and I wouldn't be upset if the Celtics swept the Pacers.
There you go.
I'm just saying. I'm hopeful that it would land 6 and we're both happy.
You and Julian Edlow can go to hell.
Julian Edlow of DraftKings, he is more bullish. He believes that it'll be done in 5 games or less.
We're literally heads up, actually. He laid 2.5. I took 2.5.
Right head. All right, but
I don't mean that, by the way.
But why do
you?
But why do you ultimately believe the Pacers? And I've seen a bunch of other people. I saw Matt Moore talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to Tim Legler earlier today,
Legs.
Who we were singing his praises. I don't know if it was off there or on the air. Not that he needs it from us, but he believes this is a 6 or 7 game series. So there's a lot of people who believe that the Pacers are going to be a challenge for the Celtics. What ultimately led you to get to the window on the Pacers plus 2.5 games at plus 130?
I think it's just the way that they play on offense. It's really got to be that, because it's not like I'm really expecting them to get some stops here. But there is some variance to the way that Boston plays. We saw that in their Game 2 loss against Cleveland. It was 2 trains passing in the night. Cleveland had a really good shooting performance, shot over 50% from the floor, over 40% from 3. Meanwhile, Boston shot sub 40% from the floor, if I remember correctly, for sure, shot sub 30% from 3 in that game. So there's going to be those games where if you're so reliant on your three-point shooting, you tend to throw up a clunker every once in a while. Indiana, they have upticked the amount of threes that they have taken. It's not really a phrase that you should use in the English language, but you get what I'm saying. They've taken more threes. They're shooting at a very high percentage. They are, again, the best three-point shooting team by percentage in this postseason to this point right now. And they play with pace. They play in transition. They're very good in that regard. And given where their strengths are at on this team, you have Tyrese Halliburton, you have Pascal Siakam, and we haven't really hit on this a ton. Lest we forget, their bench is very, very good.
Yep.
TJ McConnell has been brilliant in this postseason to the point where people are asking, why is he not closing out games? You have a lot of depth to this squad as well that can help you out in some of these bench minutes, and that's going to be the big one, right? Boston's bench is not bad by any stretch, but when you talk about depth, I think Indiana does win that battle when it comes to pieces that rely on, that fit with what you want to do coming off of your bench that aren't starting games. I think that they have that a little bit more than what the Boston Celtics do. I think you put all of those things together, I think you get a team that, much like the Atlanta Hawks last year, can be pretty competitive and just surprise them. Look, do I think the percentage chance that Indiana wins this series is higher than what 6-1 would say? I would think so, which is why at plus 2.5 games, there is some value there in that plus 130 price tag, because I do think the probability of this Pacers team sticking around, if you will, being competitive, I do think it's higher. And I'll just invoke it one last time. When you went back and you look at that series against the Knicks, once OG Anunoby went down, this team won 4 out of 5 games, had a net rating of over 13, and outside of, like we mentioned, the loss and, of course, the close contest in Game 3, they mollywopped them in a couple of other contests, to use that term one more time. This was a team that, over the course of that, from a net rating perspective in the last 5 games of that series against New York, just ran out a team that didn't have anything left. So if you want to look at that and say, well, it took them 7 games, you can. But if you really dissect how that series went down, Indiana took care of business the way it should against a team that had nothing. I think that's worth a little something here, too. Betting
splits over at VSiN.com. 57% of the bets, 84% of the money on the Boston Celtics here for this game. 75% of the bets on the over, 82% of the handle on the over. That, I don't think, should come as a surprise to anybody, knowing what we just saw from the Indiana Pacers, what we have anticipated from the Pacers from a defensive standpoint and all their defensive metrics, and then the Boston Celtics being rather rested. So yesterday we also talked about Eastern Conference Final MVP, and I know that is bad memories. I don't want to bring it up again, but I will. Jason Tatum's at minus 235. Jaylen Brown is at 5-1. And then you get your first Pacer. That's Tyrese Halliburton, 11-1. Derek White, 15-1. Pascal Siakam, 20-1. What I find interesting about this particular series in this awards market is when you look at the Western Conference, it is Anthony Edwards at minus 140, Luka Doncic at plus 180, and then a significant drop-off. this particular series, while Jason Tatum is an overwhelming favorite, but you got to keep in mind, Boston Celtics are minus $9. He's minus 235. So Jason Tatum, while the favorite, and rightfully so, there is certainly a point to discuss that Jaylen Brown could potentially win Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So for anybody looking to back the Celtics in a more unique standpoint, believing that they'll win this series, but they don't want to lay the minus 900. They don't necessarily want to go on a series spread. Would you look at an Eastern Conference Finals MVP? Because Jason Tatum to win the Eastern Conference Finals MVP is actually a cheaper price than to take the Celtics at minus 1.5 games.
Yeah, but it's not that correlated, I think. Like, you look at, for example, Jason Tatum leads the Boston Celtics in scoring in the postseason. He's averaging 24.3.
And rebounds, right?
Yep, and Jaylen Brown's right behind him in scoring at 23.1. From an efficiency standpoint, Jaylen Brown is shooting 55% from the floor. So you're talking about a guy that, scoring-wise, is comparable to what he's doing on a much more efficient level. There is a reality in which Jaylen Brown comes in and wins an award like this. And that's why I think it's not a Luka Doncic type tie here. If the Mavericks are going to win, Luka's going to win that award. Jason wins. They win. Jaylen Brown can still take that from him.
Jaylen Brown 5-1 to win Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Boston Celtics a 10-point favorite tonight. Total sitting at 222.5. That's JVT. I'm Tim Murray. We're up and running. It's VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
For a limited time only, you can get in on our VSiN Pro Spring Special. How about this? $199 for an annual subscription. Usually it's $240. And we'll tack on another 2 months for free if you use the promo code PRIME. That's right, 14 months of VSiN Pro access for less than $200. That's less than 50 cents a day. VSiN.com/subscribe. Check it out now. A lot of great content up on the site that you get as part of every single day. And, of course, the live streams, the betting tools like our NBA Player Prop Analyzer. And, how about this? It's my favorite thing. You ready for this?
What do we got?
We have the betting splits. Check them out now. VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code PRIME. 14 months, all for less than 50 cents a day.
Oh, I thought your favorite thing was the NBA Prop Bet Analyzer.
It is. They're all my favorite things.
Can't like them all. It's like you got two kids. You definitely like one more than the other, but you won't say. It is VSiN Primetime. I only have one, so equal love.
Yep, and that's a negative on what I'm searching for here.
You have the daily prop bet analyzer over at vsin.com, which is a really good tool that we have discussed all throughout the postseason. If you want to quickly click on it, you see Jason Tatum over under tonight, 29.5 for game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, and he has gone under 29.5 in 6 of the last 8 games. He did go over it twice during the Cleveland series, but for the most part, has been a rather under postseason for Jason Tatum. He's only gone over in 3 of the 10 games that the Boston Celtics have played. He is at 29.5 tonight, is Jason Tatum at his player prop. Point spread sits at 10. Line total is at 222.5. Pacers at the Boston Celtics tonight. Tip-off scheduled for just after 8 o'clock Eastern. In hour 2, we will head to Boston and talk to Brian Barrett to get the latest on this particular series. Obviously, we'll circle back to it as well. As always, just a reminder, we're up and running on YouTube as well. Hour 1 is completely free, youtube.com/VSiN Live. Bottom of the hour, our best bets. So looking forward to jumping into that. I know Mr. Von Tobel over here, his First 5 attack today. Article up on vsin.com as they are every Tuesday and Thursday. So I got asked this today on a radio interview.
Oh, fancy pants.
You know, I'm kind of big deal. Shouts to my guys in Memphis. And one of the questions I was asked was, are we overlooking the Dallas Mavericks? We've seen the market get bet up. Right now, if you're looking at DraftKings, what the series price sits at, it is Minnesota minus 170. Dallas plus 145. This opened minus 150. We've seen different shops. I believe Circa sitting here at minus 180 JVT. So we've seen series prices continue to move in the direction.
Minus 185, by the way, for Circa. So, yeah.
Of the Minnesota Timberwolves. When you go through a simple breakdown, because we can get very nuanced and we will, but simply look at the players that are on the floor. Right now, current form. Luka Doncic.
Oh, they're going to go Rudy Gobert.
Anthony Edwards. Who is playing better?
I mean, probably if you account for.
I went Anthony Edwards just because Luka.
He had a really big game to close him out. In the last 2 games of the series, he was better. But if you go whole sample size of the playoffs, obviously we know that he has not been as efficient as he usually is. So I think you could go with the Anthony Edwards argument there, sure.
And then your next pieces are Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, and then for Dallas, Kyrie Irving. How would you rank those? So if we can assume 1, 2 in some order is Luka and Anthony Edwards, who would you say is third?
Like, if we're doing the classic, so the thing what you're doing here is, right, the classic, all right, let's draft the players involved in this series. 1 or 2, or number 1 is going to be one of Anthony Edwards or Luka Doncic. Like you said, 1 and 2 are going to be some form of that. The next few picks might be Timberwolves. You might get Kyrie mixed in there, but regardless of the top 5 players drafted here, of the top 6, I think 4 of them are going to be Timberwolves, right? When you're talking about Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and Jaden McDaniels. I think those 4 are going to go in the top 6 of a draft if you're drafting players from these teams.
Right.
Then after that, I actually think you go maybe Mike Conley. Depends on what you think of P.J. Washington and Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. But your overall point is, like, when you look at this as a whole, the depth, I assume this is where you're going, right? The depth for Minnesota is there and seems stronger than it would be for Dallas. It's just that the quality of the talent that Dallas has at its peak, which is Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, could be enough to win you a series and give you that edge. Is that fair?
Yeah. And I think my point, because I ultimately got to the window on the Minnesota Timberwolves, JVT, we know where he stands.
Oh, yeah, no, that's right. I forgot. You got the parlay.
On the 30-1 ticket there. But when you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, I guess I'll ask you the question. Do you agree with this market move? You said it a little bit yesterday. I don't know if people caught it, but you feel like this series, if you were to get aggressive, you believe this series could end sooner rather than later. You believe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota-Dallas was a shorter series than Indiana-Boston.
Tim, I believe that the Timberwolves can sweep these fools, man. Let's go. Let's get this thing done, huh? End this right now. You've got great individual defenders. You could take on Luka Doncic. You could take on Kyrie Irving. P.J. Washington going to shoot 47% from 3 again? I don't think so, my friend. Let's do this. Derek Jones Jr., former UNLV running rebel, love you. But guess what? You're not shooting 37%. You know what he is as a career shooter, Tim? Derek Jones Jr.?
31?
Look, there you go. 31% three-point shooter. You think we're doing this again? I don't think so. Timberwolves, baby. Let's go. I'm not going to say that. I was going to say, I'm not going to hedge. The last time I did that, the Boston Celtics lost in the NBA Finals, and that just went going away. But in all seriousness, as I remove the wrestling act there, right? No, I do. Like, I think that you're well-suited to take this team on. I do think that, and I wrote about this in the series preview, I don't think enough is being made of how much Dallas role players carried them through that Oklahoma City Thunder series. Kyrie Irving...
P.J. Washington was unreal.
Right. And Kyrie Irving averaged well under 20 points per game in that series. Derek Lively was plus 71 in that series again. In his time on the floor, think about that. In 6 games, they outscored the Oklahoma City Thunder by 71 points when Derek Lively was on the floor in that series. You mentioned it. P.J. Washington giving you 17 and 10 on 47% shooting from three-point range. The guy was shooting 50% from the free throw stripe, for crying out loud. And, this isn't in all seriousness, I do believe that Minnesota can win this thing in 5 games because I think that they are good enough on defense. And we saw that. You saw how good they can be defensively in that Denver series. How tenacious, like when they're on. Look at game 2. Look at game 6. Look at the end of game 7. When they are on, they will suffocate the life out of you. They will give you absolutely nothing. And so when you look at a team like Dallas, whose second star, Kyrie Irving, frankly, has been struggling. Like, I don't know what it is, whether it's just, hey, the Oklahoma City Thunder, I mentioned the stat, right? Minnesota was the second best team in isolation defense in the NBA on a points per possession basis. Who was number 1? The Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder did pretty good against Kyrie Irving when it comes to defending him in isolation. Luka Doncic got a lot better as that series went on. But if you're talking about having the pieces to take this team on, when you have Jaden McDaniels, when you have Anthony Edwards, those are teams or those are pieces that I think can make this thing a living hell for them offensively. Now, the real pushback, which is a very fair and pushback and a question the Timberwolves have to answer is, are you on offense going to be able to operate at the level that you need to win this series? Because that's not a given that you're going to be able to do that. I think I would argue that Minnesota, percentage-wise, was one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA in the regular season, can shoot. You should get better shooting variance than the Thunder did because they got some pretty negative shooting variance. It was part of the reason why we saw that last game go over because they finally started to hit some of their threes. But I think that when you just look at their ability to defend, their ability to potentially force turnovers, supplement their offense by getting out in transition and running in those possessions, I just really like this Timberwolves team a lot. And their ability to do it, like their strengths, I think, lend more to that thing ending early. And this isn't saying anything crazy. Of the two teams, which is more likely to end this series in 5 games or fewer?
Oh, yeah.
It's Minnesota for me, not Dallas.
And I think what you pointed out and what's interesting, too, about your bet regarding the Indiana Pacers and how they go deep, I mean, the depth there, and I know, as you alluded to, you look at Dallas, you would think depth, right? P.J. Washington, the performance that he had, Derek Lively, how well he's been playing, but the depth and how much they kind of throw at you from a defensive standpoint, I really like this Minnesota team. I'm on them to win this series, and I don't know. Here at Circa, JVT, what do you think? 9-1 in a sweep? Minnesota getting it done? 4 games?
I was looking at some exactas, too, championship-wise. We'll talk about it. There's championship exactas out there.
That's a good tease. Maybe we'll hit on those. Oh, we got to do some best bets.
We also got to hit on the fact that Nevada is hanging up nothing when it comes to these conference finals MVPs. It's fun.
They're trying to protect you. They don't want what happened to you last year to happen again.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
VSiN.com. Check it out, folks. We got a lot of great stuff up on the site and would love to point out that Zach Cohen has just released, as part of the many things we get up on the website, like the betting guides, our French Open betting guide. That's right. Check it out now up on VSiN.com. And if you're not a pro subscriber, would like access to everything we do, VSiN.com/subscribe, promo code PRIME. Got a deal for you. 14 months of VSiN Pro access for less than $200. All part of the new website up at VSiN.com.
Zachary Cohen, speaking of which, will join the program at 7:15 Eastern
He's going to come on for a cup of coffee?
Yes. Also, during the break, noted old movie hater JVT was watching 1980s Randy Savage interview clips.
No, it was Macho Man, yeah. That's not a movie.
What's the difference?
It's all real.
Oh, yeah.
Cream of the crop, baby. Come on.
Lots of people chiming in on our YouTube comments section, which is always great. You can always watch us, youtube.com/VSiN Live. Mike with the kind words said, it's great to see you two studs. Said, looking sharp. Well, thank you. Oh, we are looking sharp today. Paul B., he has a lot to say. Paul B. said he had 5 separate $100 future wagers on the Celtics winning the East at plus 115, and then had them with had him a while back with Green Bay, Jordan Love, Oilers, LSU, and the Braves. He said, canceled them a week in. I don't trust the Celtics.
Oh, I assume for like next year, Green Bay. Okay, I got you.
And then then he goes, I'm also regretting canceling those bets. Lastly,
Paul, the way the East, I just realized that, the way this East broke down. Sorry about that, buddy.
He said he doesn't trust him, which I would say Paul's probably cheering for Indiana, but he did chime in. He believes Kyrie for MVP of the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
He believes has a little bit of value on that. And I would say, if you believe in the Dallas Mavericks, there's a reason that Luke is the favorite, but Kyrie, does he have the possibility, the potential, the skill to go off? Absolutely.
And I do think it should be mentioned because, we lack nuance in conversations and people just act like, talking hyperbole. The Dallas Mavericks can win this series. I should probably make that clear. I'm very pro-Minnesota, but obviously when you have the defense that you have, the rim protection that you have, and the high-end talent in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, they can win the series. And given the price tag, yes, minus 190 seems like a lot. It's not generally a lot in the grand scheme of probability. So this is not some runaway series for the Minnesota Timberwolves. The market likes Minnesota. And frankly, as we've kind of discussed, Tim, why wouldn't you? You're 8-3 straight up against the spread this postseason. You're covering by an insane margin per game. The market has, since the first game of this postseason, slept on this Minnesota Timberwolves team. So it does seem at this point right now that the market's starting to come around. And this is the second consecutive series. Remember, market turned on them in the first round. We got that thing bet up to like minus 135 in favor of Phoenix. They didn't win a game. Then we saw the market come in. They were called the trendy team against the Denver Nuggets. Got that done, and now they're getting bet here again. So I think it's a market support thing here, but obviously Dallas does have a shot to go to the original question you were asked in your very fancy pants interview in Memphis. Are we forgetting the Dallas Mavericks? And no, I don't think we are. We're not sleeping on Dallas.
Very fancy pants interview. I would think they are happy about that.
By the way, Paul corrects you. Not Western for Kyrie. The whole thing.
Oh, the whole thing.
The whole enchilada.
Oh, all right. Paul said he likes the long shots. I like the long shots. 35-1. He says, "Okay, good luck, Paul. I wish you well." I don't really, though. I always say that, but I don't mean it because I care for my bets more than Paul's. But I do wish Paul the best in his endeavors.
Oddly rude.
In the long shots. Do you wish that Paul wins his bet?
Yeah.
So Paul can't win his bet, and you can't win your bet.
Sure.
So you're a liar. See, that's not nice.
I hope Paul wins it.
So you'd rather sacrifice your 30-1?
No, I just rather my hits, but I wish Paul would win his.
I just said the same thing.
Two things can be true at once.
You don't want Paul to win. We appreciate.
I didn't say I want him. You said he hoped.
Oh yeah, good luck.
There's two differences. There's a difference there.
You don't hope because that's a lie. You hope that your future hits.
No, I mean of course, two things can be true. I mean, what are you talking about?
Not
here?
when they go head to head with each other.
I mean, it's technically not head to head. Kyrie could win MVP, and
he cannot win Finals MVP, and you win your long shot.
That could happen.
No, it can't. Unless he gets released and picked up right now. But good luck, Paul. And thanks for chiming in. Always chime in on the comment section there. YouTube.com/VSiN Live. All right, enough pitter-patter, banter. Let's get to it. Our best bets.
I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom.
Putting our money where our mouth is.
I like to live dangerously.
It's time for Best Bets.
Come on, Jerry, it's a lock.
All right, a thank you to the Oilers and Canucks last night for saving their goals until the second period. Watching that first period, really the Oilers were just peppering the Canucks. And I am no hockey expert, and I'm a little mad at myself because after watching that first period, I thought to myself, there is no way the Canucks are winning this game. And they didn't. And the Oilers are moving on. They are a slight underdog against the Dallas Stars in the Western Conference Final. Very much looking to that series, but a nice Game 7, first period under. We like that. We're going to go to JVT here because I've got nothing new for the card tonight. You do. You got a couple bets, including, if you haven't read it by now, your first 5 play on VSiN.com.
Yeah, I had to switch the picture on my article today. I love picking out the picture. It's one of my favorite things to do. Because Adam Burke was on the same thing, used the same picture. The best-kept secret in Major League Baseball, the Chicago White Sox. Yes, the Chicago White Sox, Tim, and starter Garrett Crochet. He's been amazing. Now, on the surface, just a 4.18 ERA, but you dig under the hood for a little bit, and you see an incredible statistical profile. Mowing down 33.7% of opposing hitters in 51 2/3 innings of work. 77th percentile in whiff rate up to this point. He gets batters to chase outside of the zone over 30% of the time. Dominant swing and miss numbers. Oh, and by the way, an elite walk rate, 79th percentile when it comes to walk rate of opposing hitters. And the best part, doesn't generate or doesn't allow hard contact to be generated at such a high clip. Now, here's the problem. Garrett Crochet, he's awesome. He's a lefty. He plays for the White Sox. So I don't know if I want to go full throw to back him here, even though the Toronto Blue Jays have been absolutely atrocious. So we're going to go with the first 5 under. It's a low number, 3.5. First 5. Market has moved in this direction. First 5 total now. Look at DraftKings. Actually, minus 130. It really has moved that much.
Hashtag sharp card.
But when you look at this, Yusei Kikuchi's been awesome. You look at his numbers. There's not a crack in the armor there. 260 ERA, 261 FIP. He's walked just 4.8% of opposing hitters. He struck out over a quarter of them and doesn't give up his own hard contact rate. And you get to face the White Sox. Low-key? It's not even low-key. The Blue Jays' offense has been atrocious. One of the things that I noted in the article here, Blue Jays, 21st in weighted runs created plus, 19th in WOBA, 4 of Toronto's top 5 hitters in terms of plate appearances, hitting 230 or worse. I like Crochet. I like Kikuchi. I don't like either lineup. Let's go first 5 under 3.5 in this matchup later today. Next up, we going hoops? What are we doing here? Wyatt, you want me to go hoops? You want me to go... Okay. Now, I'm going to save a little bit of this for our WNBA minute, but I want to have some fun tonight. So let's lay it. Big number. Las Vegas Aces. What a dandy of a schedule for the Las Vegas Aces to start this season. This is just going to be their 3rd game of the year. They are starting all 4 games at home. So their first 4 games are at home. I should word that better. And by the way, when they get to take on Caitlin Clark this coming weekend, they're going to come off 3 days of rest. Well, they're going to be playing their 3rd game in 4 days. It's going to be a nightmare. Regardless, good spot here. A little bit of rest against a Mercury team that was just on a big stage yesterday, just having to face off. I think that this is one where I'm going to go ahead and take the Aces. Minus 14. They have not covered a game yet. Let's go, Las Vegas. Get it done. Little top heavy, but Asia Wilson's been playing absolutely tremendous. Think they get it done, rested and at home. Haven't played since Saturday against your girl, Cameron Brink, and the LA Sparks.
Cameron Brink throwing out the opening pitch yesterday at the LA Dodgers game. Good job. Stormy Doppelganger. Getting it... I don't know. I didn't see the pitch. I just saw the pictures. I don't know if the pitch was...
By the way, I don't know why I said they played yesterday. I take that back. I was getting my notes mixed up.
If you're wondering, Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever didn't win last night, but did cover. So they are now 2-2 ATS.
Save it for the WNBA
All right,
minute.
Sorry, I forgot. We got the WNBA minute
What do you
coming
think I
up.
do all this work for, man?
By the way, 2 late-night games for us. 2 games starting at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. Washington at the Fighting Cameron Brinks and Phoenix here in Las Vegas. You should go watch your bet in person today. Go drive down to Mandalay Bay.
What? No, I got basketball to watch. I got baseball to watch. We got things to do today.
You got a phone. You can watch that a little bit. Just to recap, my best bet, which you could still get at the price that we discussed yesterday, the Celtics to win the series in 6 games or less. Hopefully it's 6, so both JVT and I can win. Minus 1.5 of the series price, which is now minus 350 at DraftKings. If you pair that with the Minnesota Timberwolves, which, interestingly enough, DraftKings, I believe, JVT, is the shortest series price I see out there at minus 170. We talked about it here at minus 185. So DraftKings, a little bit of a bargain if you do like the Minnesota Timberwolves to win their particular series.
Sometimes when these are tweeted out, they're not accurate, but I did see a graphic of another shot at minus 162.
Okay. Well, look around, but for me, Celtics minus 1.5 games. Of course, game 1 tonight, where they're a 10-point favorite. T-Wolves to win that series at plus 104. Green Bay Packers, JVT. They were hot to end last year. Will it continue in 2024?
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
NBA Finals right around the corner with the action heating up on the court. It's even hotter at at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New to DraftKings, listen up. New customers can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,500. Just deposit at least $5 and you'll get a bonus bet back equal to your first bet if it doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code VSiN. The crown is yours.
Alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, I am Tim Murray. It is VSiN Prime Time. In hour 2, we will Continue to dive into Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Boston Celtics, a 10-point favorite tonight against the Indiana Pacers, minus 900 for the series price. Before we get to our guest, Sports Odds History tweeted this out. Since 1988, teams that were favored were series favorites of minus 900 or higher in each of the first 3 rounds of the NBA playoffs. Your list: the 97 Bulls, the 2017 Golden State Warriors, and the 2024 Boston Celtics to be a favorite of minus 900 or greater in the first 3 rounds of the postseasons. The previous 2 won the championship in the 97 Bulls and the 2017 Golden State Warriors. Boston Celtics, Indiana Pacers series starts tonight, once again in Boston, a little bit after 8 o'clock Eastern time. All right, let's head to our progressive guest line and welcome in our frequent guest here on the program. It is Mike Sanford, longtime head coach, or longtime offensive coordinator, most recently interim head coach of Colorado, joins us right now here on the program. You've been doing work with Altitude Sports Radio. Not a great weekend for the old Denver metro area. How you guys doing after Avalanche lose in overtime and then the Nuggets bow out on Sunday?
Yeah, we kind of went from a lot of promise to the Monday morning radio show that we did here on Altitude Sports was it was a lot of postmortem, to say the least. And you got 2 choices as a Denver area sports fan. You can lean hard into the Colorado Rockies, or you can do like I do, and you move on to your favorite college football team and look forward to the NFL season. So that's where I am right now.
No, I thought you were going to say the Colorado Buffaloes, right? That's what we're getting ready for.
By the way, for those who are watching, Mike went to Boise State. He was an offensive coordinator as well. That hat is solid right there. I like that hat.
This is actually the Ashton Genty NIL collection. So
wow. Okay.
Ashton Genty, I think he's a nice dark horse for a potential Heisman Trophy conversation, at least.
I'll book that action for you right now.
Let's go.
I'll take the Ashton Genty Heisman Trophy. Now,
at least he's allowed to get NIL money.
What I will. We don't need to get into that now. That's his guy, Spencer Danielson. That's his guy.
That's why I like the poke. I know it is.
That's his guy.
I like the poke.
By the way, I would say, as we get deeper into the summer months, and the Mountain West is going to do their media days here at Circa, which is always fun. Boise State is really in a good situation to, no doubt, compete for that Group of 5 bid to the college football playoff. So that'll be a great discussion. There's a lot of expectations there for Boise State, who, week 2, Mike? I think they play Oregon. So saddle up. It's going to be a fun start. But let's jump into a little NFL. The schedule was released last week, and a team that you cover or follow very closely. We'll get to the team you cover in the Denver Broncos. But I want to talk some Green Bay Packers, because you coached Jordan Love when you were the OC at Utah State. You have a great relationship with Jordan, and he took off last year. Now there's high expectations for him as the starter heading into this year. You go right out of the chute. You're taking on a team in the Eagles in Brazil, so unique challenge there. When you look at how the schedule shapes out here for the Green Bay Packers, what was your takeaway from last Wednesday and the schedule in front of the Green Bay Packers?
Well, I actually really like the schedule for the Packers. I mean, they have a very young core that had postseason success. I think this is a team that, I think the ceiling is to be a 12-win team. And I don't think that's, too far-fetched. I think the floor would be maybe an 8-win team. But I like some of the combination of, their non-conference, out of division type games that I think are, you look at the Jaguars, a home tilt versus the Colts, getting the Texans in week 2, which I think is going to be a really fun matchup of 2 of the most exciting quarterbacks, in all of the NFL, that are young players that actually remind me a lot of each other. Funny story, JVT and Timmy, I was coaching at Utah State in 2019. Mm-hmm. I went through spring ball, and I'm like, this Jordan Love kid's pretty dang good. So we got to probably go out and find another one. So I really, truly went out and tried to find the carbon copy version of Jordan Love. And I found him. He was a very little-known prospect from the Inland Empire named C.J. Stroud. But then we offered him, and then, of course, everybody else in America offered him. So it doesn't surprise me one bit, because they truly are similar players. I look at this. I think it's going to be a really exciting several games, especially in the NFC North. The NFC North got a whole heck of a lot better in this draft. I think the entire division is set up to be very competitive. Although I do think that the Minnesota Vikings are probably primed for more success early, even with J.J. McCarthy, who I fully believe will win that starting job either at the tilt of the season or during the first 5 weeks of the season. I think that they're in the best position, of the bottom two from last season between the Bears, and the Vikings. But Caleb Williams, man, all I can see right now is he's doing an unbelievable job of throwing routes on air in rookie minicamp. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how he really does settle in to being the starting quarterback in Chicago. I'm not quite as fired up on the Chicago Bears as everybody else is. They did have a nice draft. But this is going to be competitive NFC North. I think any given Sunday, Thursday, or whenever they play these games nowadays, I think it could be a toss-up for a lot of these games.
So, obviously when it comes to betting, Mike, we talk about expectations. There are expectations set by the market. There's a win total of 10.5. They are favored at this point right now, Green Bay, in 12 of their 17 games. So when you look at this team in terms of their growth, how do you think that growth translates to the expectations that now have been thrust upon them from the betting market? Can they push for 11 wins? Do they deserve to be favored in 12 out of the 5 games that they're going to be playing? Or should be 12 of the 17 games they're going to be playing?
Yeah, I do think so. And I think that they've really built this thing the right way through the draft, through patience at the quarterback position. And then I think Matt LaFleur made a really hard decision, parting ways with his defensive coordinator, Joe Barry, and bringing in Jeff Hafley. I like what they did schematically. They're going to play a lot more man coverage. Some of those kind of late game, the Packers ended up getting some leads late in games and then squandering those leads, which did affect the regular season win total. And then, certainly in the postseason against the Niners, I think that Jeff Hafley and his scheme will fit in very well. I think that even his time in college, at Boston College is going to be a really good fit. Just knowing players, knowing, who's come through the system and being relevant with the young kids these days. I think that the Packers are very, very, I think they're in a great position to win 11 or 12 games. I think that 12 is going to be a challenge. I think that 11 is very realistic.
You look back at last year, and we, certainly over the summer we'll dive into it, but the biggest jumps from one year to the next, and the Packers are one of them, right? Last year, 7.5 was the win total. Now you're at 10.5, so obviously some big expectations there. Mike Sanford joining us here on VSiN PrimeTime up there in the Denver area, longtime offensive coordinator. Now one of us in the media working for Altitude Sports Radio, which VSiN is proud to be a part of Altitude Sports Radio as well on the AM dial there. So the Green Bay Packers, a team that you always keep a close eye on, and the Denver Broncos, a team there in your backyard that you talk about, I'm sure, on a daily basis. They have the third lowest win total right now in the NFL at 5.5. The only two teams lower than that, New England and Carolina, both sitting at 4.5. You look at the market right now, Mike, only favored right now in 3 games are the Denver Broncos. They get Bo Nix. He's going to more than likely be the starter there. What'd you take away from that schedule for the Denver Broncos and win total sitting at 5.5?
Yeah, I actually checked those lines right when they came out, so there was some shift. They were favored in only 2 of 17 at first release, if I'm not mistaken. The schedule makers in the National Football League did their old pal Sean Payton no good favors. You start with 3 of 4 games on the road. You're breaking in a rookie quarterback most likely. You're going to be forced. Even though Sean Payton doesn't like to play rookies, you're going to be forced to have to play a lot of rookies, particularly wide receiver, potentially running back with your BFF, Audric Estime, Tim. But I think that this is a schedule that you don't see a bye week until week 14. That's about as bad as it gets. And then you have some really, really challenging games, some interesting storyline games early on against the Saints, against the Steelers, and Russell Wilson visiting his old best friend, Sean Payton. Good pals here in the Denver market. But I think it's a challenging schedule up and down. And if you look at it, some of the only winnable games on this schedule are the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that this Broncos franchise hasn't beaten in 10 tries since 2019, I believe. And those are some of your more winnable games. I think it's going to be a challenge this season. I think that the floor is 2, and I think the ceiling is about 6 or 7.
At Coach_Sanford2. Catch him on Altitude Sports Radio and weekly here on VSiN. Always appreciate it, Coach.
Hey, appreciate you guys.
There he is. Mike Sanford on the Progressive guest line. Can you be a little nicer to our guests? It's not nice.
What's that one?
Unnecessary dig. His guy, Spencer Daniels.